Thank you so much for attending. This is the first event that our initiative, Stigma Free Springfield, is putting on for the community. Our goal with the Stigma Free initiative, the Stigma Free Springfield initiative, is to bring light to mental health issues and addiction issues and break the stigma surrounding both. I was able to see this presentation in November and immediately wanted to bring it here because I think it's amazing. And I was lucky enough to be able to book Agent McMahon. He's gonna do his thing in a minute. It's a great presentation. And we also have several programs here that have materials to share with you, and at the end they'll speak to the audience and let you know what services they provide in Union County for mental health and for addiction issues. So I'm going to step away and let Agent McMahon take over.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks very much. Again, my name is Tim McMahon. I'm a special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration. I've been with DEA for almost 20 years, and prior to that, I was a state trooper in New York for 6 years, so a decent amount of law enforcement experience. Currently, my primary position at DEA, I haven't done investigations for a couple years. I handle all the media relations, press releases, that kind of stuff, and the bulk of what I do is things like this. We call it our demand reduction. I'm going out and doing presentations throughout the state, speaking to students, parents, faculty, about obviously the dangers of drug use, drug trends, what's going on, what we're seeing, and then the Hidden in Plain Sight program I started in October of 2016. I live out in Warren County, so I do a lot of work with the different prevention groups in the different counties, and I do a lot of work with the Family Guidance Center in Warren, and they have this program, and they had called me a few times to see if I wanted to assist them with their program. I thought it was a great idea, so I put in a proposal at work to start doing it for DEA, because the one they do, they only stay within the county. So since October of 2016, I've been doing this, and I travel all over the state. Tonight is my 52nd time putting the program on. As I'm going through, if you have any questions, just shout them out. When I start getting into all the different items in the bedroom, if any of you guys over here want to shift over, it's up to you. If not, I hold everything up so that you can see it anyway. So again, the nature of the program, the name of the program, Hidden in Plain Sight, right? We all have kids. I have a senior and a freshman in high school. And how many times throughout the course of the week do we walk past their bedrooms and you look in, you see what they have, the stuff on the nightstand and the end tables, and for the most part it's all items that belong in a bedroom, right? So you see them, you don't really pay any attention to them because they're things that aren't out of place. So with this program, I'm going to show you how some things that look like they belong, and they do, can have a different use. People that are involved in using drugs or alcohol. I'll show you some of the ways that they may try and hide things, and we'll go from there. I start out with a PowerPoint just going over current drug trends, showing you what we're seeing at DEA, the different things that we're investigating, and then I'll get into the bedroom again, and I'll pick up each and every item. And obviously this is just a sampling of what people have used, and everything I have displayed are things that parents I've come in contact with who have, unfortunately, their children been involved in drug or alcohol use. These are all different items that they found. So I don't want you going home tonight and tearing the kids' rooms apart, okay? And I'll get into the goals for the end of the night. Pay attention to the small things, right? We obviously know our kids the best. When there's little changes going on, we pick up on it. If they're, steady A or B students, then all of a sudden the grades start dropping for no reason. They're no longer interested in athletics. They start hanging out with the wrong crowd. Those are indicators. It may not be anything, but it's definitely worth investigating and trying to find out what is causing these changes. We have to speak to our kids about drugs and alcohol, okay? Studies show that parents that speak to their kids about the dangers of drug and alcohol use, those kids are 50% less likely to start using drugs or alcohol compared to those students whose parents don't have those conversations. So just speaking to our kids every now and again, and it's not drilling it into them every single day, it's every now and again, just bringing up, hey, what's going on at school? You know, you hear about drug use at school or alcohol? When you were out last night, was anybody drinking? Just every now and again, you know, let them know that you're aware of what might be going on. Don't be afraid to ask questions, okay? Very, very important. Again, when we see those little changes going on, find out, speak to them. Hey, what's going on? Because again, some of the parents I've dealt with, they saw those changes going on and they suspected it might be drugs, but they didn't say anything. They didn't ask any questions. They thought, well, it's just a phase, they're gonna come out of it. And then it progresses, and once it gets to the stage that there's a dependence or an addiction, it's not just gonna stop on its own, okay? And thinking in your mind, because you don't wanna deal with it, that it's gonna go away, can obviously lead to overdose and death. And then we have to educate ourselves, right? We all know our kids know the internet in and out, backwards and forwards, right? We need to do that as well. Every now and again, do a Google search, drug trends in New Jersey, to see what's going on right here. Slang terms, because with Instagram and all the apps they're using, they're speaking in slang. So stay up on that. Okay, when hopefully you're checking their phones every now and again, you might pick up on something. Okay, so to get into it, what we're seeing today, the main drug problem facing the country today is heroin and prescription drug abuse. Okay, in 2016, there was over 64,000 drug overdose deaths across the country, and that's encompassing all drugs: heroin, pills, cocaine, methamphetamine, everything. But of that 64,000, about 65% were directly related to either heroin or abuse of prescription painkillers. So you can see what a big toll just those two have. With that number, 64,000, I say think of Yankee Stadium on a sunny July afternoon, sold out, and then every one of those people dead. And then add about another 20,000, because this new stadium only holds, I believe, about 48,000. So I mean, that's remarkable. In 2015, it was about 55,000. In 2014, it was about 43,000. Up to 2008, motor vehicle accidents was the #1 accidental killer in the United States. After 2008, started accidental drug overdoses was #1, and it's been #1 ever since. And the problem we have with pills and heroin, I'm not a chemist, but you can see from the molecular models there, for oxycodone and heroin, they're virtually identical. They affect the brain in the exact same way. So when somebody's transitioning, moving from pills to heroin, it's not like the body has to go through this big transition, okay? They're both affect the brain in the same way. They're both depressants. So it's just a nice, natural transition. And I'll get into a couple other reasons in a little bit. As far as prescription drug abuse, it's the fastest growing drug problem in the United States. Today, more people are abusing prescription pills than are abusing cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and different types of hallucinogens combined. Okay, when we ask people, tell me, name the illegal drug use in the country, they name the common ones: heroin, cocaine, meth. Most people will leave pills out. Okay, they don't think of that. And then as a country, we have an issue when it comes to abusing the pills, obviously. I mean, just from sitting on the couch in the evening and watch TV, how many commercials do you see come on for all these different types of prescriptions? And the one thing all these commercials are telling you to do is tell your doctor or ask your doctor, is that right for me? It's not go to the doctor, let him, look at you and let him. No, it's you go down there and tell him I want that. About 70% of us are taking at least one prescription. 50% at least 2, and 20% are taking at least 5 different types of prescription drugs. Okay? As a country, we only make up about 5% of the world's population, yet we're consuming 80% of all prescription painkillers. Okay, that's pretty staggering. What this shows, hydrocodone, which is the #1 prescribed here in the country, the kilograms is how much these other countries consume in a 1-year span. And I know we can't compare the population of the United States with Guatemala and Mexico and Vietnam, but it still puts it into perspective. 10 kilograms, that's only 22 pounds. So only 22 pounds of hydrocodone is being consumed in Mexico in a 1-year span. Okay, you can see the numbers go up a little bit. Canada, 100 kilograms is 220 pounds. And then us. Okay, we consume more than 90% of the hydrocodone across the world.
Wow.
You know, it begs the question, how is the rest of the world dealing with their pain? You know, they seem to be getting by. We were too before the mid-90s when they started pushing oxycodone. So once these prescription painkillers are prescribed, right? They're prescribed legally, but what's the #1 way that they're getting out there when people are abusing them? How are they getting a hold of them?
Kids are selling them?
But how are they getting them? Where are they getting them from?
Your medicine.
Parents.
Medicine cabinet, right? From the medicine cabinet. Because how many times have any of us received any type of prescription and you don't finish the bottle and you just stick it up in the medicine cabinet and it'll sit there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you know? Sometimes it's because, you know, if you have a bad back, I have half a bottle left, well, I'm not gonna get rid of it. You know, 6 months from now, if I tweak it again, hey, at least I don't have to go back to the doctor, I already have it. Well, this is one of the main methods that especially teenagers and people in their early 20s are getting hold of the medication. You know, when one of us, if we get into a car accident or we have a major surgery, right, and we have teenagers, and obviously kids talk, they talk to their friends. So now their friends know, hey, Jimmy's mom got into a car accident. And if they're abusing pills, they know odds are there's a new supply of pills in that house. So when I go over to visit, hey, I'm going to use the bathroom and I'm going to see what's in there. You know? And you have to take that into consideration if you have really young children and you have a babysitter coming over. Or if you're selling your home and you have an open house. People will go from open house to open house on the weekend with the sole purpose of looking for pills. Okay, and teens and their attitudes. Every day, approximately 2,500 teens will abuse prescription drugs to get high for the first time. And unfortunately, in their minds, taking a pill is safer than taking heroin or cocaine, because what happens when you get a prescription, right? A doctor wrote a prescription for it. Mom or dad picked it up from the pharmacy. It says on the label 30 milligrams, so they know exactly what's in it. They know exactly how much they're taking. They're not dealing with a street drug dealer, right? So in their minds, it's safer. But think back to that molecular model from before. And then, as I said, you have the trend. Here in New Jersey, unfortunately, we have the purest heroin in the country. On average, from our lab samples, about 58 to 63% purity level, which is the highest across the United States. And the next obvious question is, well, why is that? And really the main reason is just because of where we're located. Because when the drugs are manufactured in Mexico and Colombia, down in South America, this is where they're coming. It's going straight from Colombia right here to New York, New Jersey. So when it arrives here, it's already in its purest form, right? Drug traffickers, why are they in the business? Money. That's the only reason they're doing what they're doing. They want to maximize their profits. So when they get that kilo of heroin, which here in New Jersey will cost them anywhere from about $65,000 to $75,000, right? They want to maximize that. So they're going to take that 1 kilo, which is 2.2 pounds, and they're going to add some stuff to it, to add weight to it, to bulk it up. So now that kilo is now 1.5 kilos. But they don't want to add too much, because the more you add, the more you dilute it, the lower the purity level is. What are some of the things they're adding? Our lab tests show they ground up drywall, mix it in. powdered baby formula, meat tenderizer. You know, for those of you that cook, what does meat tenderizer do to a tough piece of meat? You know, why do you use it? It starts breaking it down. So when that's mixed in with a batch of heroin and somebody's injecting it, it's doing the exact same thing to the flesh underneath the skin at the injection point. And you'll have people with open wounds because the flesh is eaten away. So the pills, again, gets very expensive, right? So they may start by just experimentation. It could be they got hurt playing sports and a doctor wrote a prescription for them. And some people ask, well, Johnny down the street got hurt. He took oxys for 3 days, he was fine. My son took them for 3 days and he's got a craving for it. Well, it affects everybody differently. So when that does happen, or they start experimenting and they like it and then they keep it up and they develop a dependence or an addiction, right? And that free supply at home runs out, or grandma and grandpa don't have it anymore in the house, then the next logical step is to start purchasing it on the street or purchasing it from people at school. On average, a 30 milligram tablet is going to go for $1 a milligram, so you're going to be paying $30 a tablet. 80 milligram, the stronger ones, $80. It gets very expensive, especially when that dependence and that addiction starts. So instead of taking 2 or 3 pills a day, now they're taking 10, 15 pills a day at $30 a piece. It gets very expensive, especially for teenagers or young adults, right? So now mom and dad start noticing, hey, I went to the ATM yesterday, took $100 out. I don't remember spending any money, but I only have $80 here. You know, they start stealing. Jewelry starts going missing. But that same $30 here in New Jersey will get you 5, 6, 7, 8 bags of heroin, depending on where you go to buy it. So financially, it just makes sense. So you have somebody that starts abusing pills, knows the dangers of heroin, and tells themselves, there's no way, never gonna get into heroin, definitely not gonna be injecting it. Yet 6 months or a year later, they're doing exactly that. Okay, because again, financially, it's the only way they can support their habit now. More suburban teens turning from pills to heroin. Okay, another way that a lot of the pills are getting out there is from dirty doctors, right? Probably less than 1% of all physicians, right? That less than 1% is giving the medical community a bad name, because they're going to take $300, $400, $500 in cash, and they'll write a prescription for whatever you want. So what was happening a lot, especially in the mid-2000s, especially down in Florida, South Florida, it seemed like every strip mall had a new pain clinic popping up. And there's a definite need for pain clinics. But some of these would be operated by dirty doctors. And once word gets out on the street that location, that's where you go, it spreads like wildfire. So what was happening is you would have people from up and down the East Coast and the Midwest would drive down to South Florida. They'd spend several days down finding out which clinics to go to, pay for all their prescriptions for a few thousand pills, then start bouncing around to all the different pharmacies and take them home, use some for themselves, but sell the majority of them. Because again, $30 a pill, that's a lot of money. So what was happening in this particular location, every morning there will be a line of people around the building. And the people that worked there were concerned that this is going to get law enforcement attention. So they told them, you can't hang out. At least wait until we open and then come in. So I got to see, hopefully this works. No. No. Okay, anyway, I apologize for that. But what happens is a gentleman comes around to open the door and there's nobody out there, as you can see. All of a sudden, like 30 people come from all areas to go into the clinic. And eventually, at the end of the investigation, after numerous undercover purchases, it was shut down, all the doctors were arrested. Florida has since done, and that was from 2012, 2011. Florida has done a great job in changing their laws and regulations. Really have cut down on that, but now we're seeing the same type of thing in parts of Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky. We obviously have dirty doctors here, but nothing to the extent that it was down there. Now we have a unit dedicated to this out of our office in Newark, where those are the only investigations that work. It's going after these dirty doctors or the pharmacists that are willing to go against the oath they took, that are selling these pills and prescriptions. I mentioned the things they add to heroin. Okay, now we have fentanyl as one of the ingredients that they add. And fentanyl is a complete game changer, not just for us in law enforcement, but obviously for the person who's using it. Up to 80 times more potent than medical grade morphine. Okay, normally used medically for people, a lot of times in end stages of cancer that are terminal, in extreme pain, and it's usually administered via a patch, a skin patch, so it gets very slowly absorbed into the skin. But now we have organizations in China that are producing it. And they're either shipping directly to the drug organizations in Mexico, or people that are familiar with using the dark web on the internet, you go online and you can order and have it shipped direct to your house. Now remember what I said, a kilo of heroin, $65,000 to $75,000. A kilo of fentanyl, $3,000 to $3,500. That 1 kilo could gross approximately $10 million in profit. So it makes sense now for these drug organizations to get into the fentanyl business, because it makes their heroin go that much further. Now they can add a whole bunch of other stuff to their heroin to bulk it up. So that 1 kilo is now 2 kilos. And it may knock it down to 30% purity level. Then now all they have to do is add a little bit of fentanyl and it boosts it right back up. Because with fentanyl, when you're home, sprinkle some salt in your hand. And then just with your 2 fingers, see how much you can pinch. That's more than a fatal dose of fentanyl. And that's what they're adding to heroin. And unfortunately, the user has no idea what's in it. A lot of times the drug dealer themselves don't know, because they're buying it already packaged up from somebody else. And they're being told, no, it's just heroin. That's why every now and again you hear, especially over a weekend, it happened last year down in Camden. 50 overdose deaths, or 50 overdoses in one section in a 2-day period. That's because whoever mixed it did a really lousy job and they added too much fentanyl. And the sad thing with that is, for you and me, when we hear that happened on Main Street in whatever town, we would think as a drug user, well, I'm going away from Main Street, I'm going to go over here. No, it actually has the opposite effect. It'll bring more people to Main Street. Because in their minds, if the high is going to be that good, that many people overdosed, then I have to try it. Because it happened to them, it's not going to happen to me. That's the mindset. And that's why when that happens, those numbers increase so fast, because it's bringing more people into the area. Very important for our kids to know. New Jersey has a Good Samaritan Act. Okay? There's a big problem with, say 2 people getting high together, one person starting to overdose, and the second person would panic and would leave that person, and they would overdose and die. So now with the Good Samaritan Act, if that second person calls 911, even if they still have some drugs on them, and the police come to administer Narcan to the person who's overdosing, nothing is going to happen to that person who called. They'll take the drugs from them, but they will not get arrested, because it was obviously determined it's more important to try and save that person than to have that person fear that they're going to get arrested.
That's only in New Jersey, though.
New Jersey,
Not
yeah.
Florida.
That I don't know. I don't know.
Do kids know that, though?
The schools At least the schools I've been to, they all say that during health class, they let the kids know about that. But it's very important that to reinforce that. Because even if, and you know, I don't want to leave the impression that every teenager is out there getting high, you know? But even if, you know, somebody who's not involved in drug or alcohol use, but they're out at a party on the weekend, you know, and there's a whole, you know, whole bunch of kids there, and stuff is going on, and it looks like somebody's overdosing. I mean, it's just natural for teenagers. They panic, they get scared, they want to get the hell out of there, right? So even if your son or daughter isn't involved in any of that, still tell them, if you ever see that, stay and call. You know, even if everybody else takes off, because you have to get that person help. Okay, switching gears a little bit. Synthetic drugs, synthetic marijuana, K2 spice, as it's commonly known. You know, looking at that, what stands out to you?
Packaging.
Exactly. Colorful, looks like Pop Rocks, right? And that's for one reason only, right? To appeal to our kids. Now with synthetic marijuana, you know, not for human consumption, to this particular manufacturer, they feel that that's their out. That if somebody overdoses, hey, not my problem. It says right there on the label, not for human consumption. This product has been lab tested. Okay, this is a lab.
What consumption is that supposed to be for?
It simulates the effects of the THC from marijuana.
No, but it says not for human consumption, so what's the dodge there?
Sonic Boom is sold as a premium potpourri. That's what they advertise it as a potpourri, right? So here's a particular lab from one of our investigations. This is out in California. Down in the bottom left, that's a cement mixer. Okay? Inside is the vegetation they use. Usually the vegetation that's used is from a plant called the Damiana plant. Now that has zero effect on your body if you smoke it. Okay? The vegetation is only used as a method to get the chemicals they add to it into your system when you smoke it. And it's the chemicals that mimic the effects of as if you were actually smoking marijuana. But the problem is, this is how they're doing it. So somebody buys a couple packets of it, they smoke one today, they just feel stoned. Tomorrow they're in the hospital with 105 body temperature, because that's 10 times the amount of the chemical on it, because this is the method they're using to mix it up. Okay? So again, the person who's using it, you know, they're thinking it's another way to get high. A lot of times, especially if they're athletes in school, if they get drug tested, a lot of times this doesn't get tested for. So if they get tested, they're not going to test positive. But again, it's the chemicals that they use. And the problem we have in law enforcement is to declare whatever brand illegal. When we send it to our lab, there has to be a complete chemical analysis made, on the molecular level. And then once that's done, then it gets submitted to be added to the schedule. There's 5 schedules of drugs. Then it will get added. But once it gets added, the chemists that are involved, if they tweak literally one molecule in that formula, then we start all over again. Because changing that one molecule, now what we said was illegal is no longer, because it's a different formulation. And then we get into marijuana, which, and again, I go out and speak at a lot of schools. Marijuana seems to be obviously one of the biggest problems that they have. It's not just smoking joints anymore. It's the different concentrates that are now available, the different marijuana concentrates. And what that means is that people use different methods to just extract just the pure THC. And it's the THC that gives somebody that high feeling. So there's different methods to just extract it right out of the plant in a concentrated form. And these names, basically all that does is it represents what it looks like. Okay, butter looks like butter, earwax looks like earwax, and so on. Okay, up on top, BHO, that's butane hash oil. So what they'll do is you can purchase aerosol cans of butane. And the videos I've seen, they'll take the big turkey basters that has the needle on it that you can, stick into the turkey to baste it. You take that needle out, right? But you jam the tube with marijuana, put a coffee filter on the open end, and then they take the spray cap off of the aerosol butane can, so you just have that little stem sticking out. They push that into the hole where the needle was and push down, so all that butane gets forced through the vegetation, and then it drips out through the filter. So now you have a combination of THC and liquid butane. So now they have to use another method to evaporate off the butane, which we're not talking about the smartest people in the world. A lot of times doing it in a closed hotel room with no ventilation. So when you get all those fumes, can lead to explosions, fires, and so on. So that's just one of the methods. And then the purity level of the concentrate's 40 to 80% THC level. Okay, you can see the second one, Mexican marijuana, where we get a lot of our marijuana from, only 6 to 11% from just smoking the regular plant. So from 6% up to 80%. And then this leads us into the vaping, which is, again, a huge problem in high schools now, in speaking to the different administrators. With vaping and e-cigarettes, you can get the flavor pods with either nicotine or no nicotine. It's now the #1 way teenagers are getting nicotine into their systems. It's no longer traditional cigarettes. It's the vaping is the way that they're getting their nicotine fix. But they're also now able to manipulate to insert the different marijuana concentrates into those pods. So that when they're vaping, they're actually smoking concentrated marijuana. And with the vapes, there's usually no odor associated with it, even with the marijuana. So that traditional odor we all know with marijuana is not there anymore. So you may see somebody vaping, but you have no idea what it is that they're doing. And this is one that the schools say gives them the biggest problem. It's called a Juul. It's spelled J-U-U-L. Okay? It looks like a thumb drive for your computer. Okay? It plugs in to the computer. But the part that plugs in, that's just the charging port. That recharges the pen, if you will. So even if Johnny's at the dining room table doing his homework and he's recharging his Juul, and mom and dad walk in, they have no idea. It just looks like a big flash drive, right? Kids know all about it. We don't. Okay, any questions about any of that?
So how does it work with, we have a lot of kids that are going to different areas, going on vacation, stuff like that. When you have a kid who goes to like California where, recreational marijuana is legal, is legal. And they bring that back here, that then becomes a federal offense, right? That
Technically,
they're
yes,
technically
crossing state
transporting.
lines, yep.
So then if they're caught with it here, but they bought it in California, that's still like a criminal issue, right?
Mhm.
They could potentially get in trouble for that?
Yeah, just to let you know, on the federal level, when it comes to marijuana, as far as prosecutions go, the U.S. Attorney's Office requires, at least here, in my experience, almost 2,000 pounds to charge somebody federally. If you come back from California and you have a couple ounces, federally nothing's going to happen to you.
But
On the local level, you can still get charged,
And also, she works for an agency that treats young people, and it's still illegal 21 and younger.
Yeah, exactly.
In California or here, and you're
Yeah.
still gonna be part of
And that's a great point, because one of the questions that a lot of parents have brought up, even as it relates to vaping, you know, well, how do I tell my son or daughter no? Well, the first response should be, it's illegal. Vaping now in New Jersey, you have to be 21 or older. So start out with that, you know? And again, in their minds, vaping is safer than cigarettes.
What's the age for cigarettes?
I think it's 21.
Is it?
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah. But again, think of that word safer. When you say something is safer, it doesn't mean it's 100% safe. You know, there's still a danger. And vaping is so relatively new that it's too early to know the long-term medical issues. One thing we're starting to hear about now is something called popcorn lung. You know, if you remember a few years ago, there was a big thing with the butter chemical that they use on microwavable popcorn, you know, to flavoring. That when people opened the bag, when they took it out of the microwave oven, and that you have that big cloud of steam come out, people breathing that in, it was an irritant to their lungs, you know, and they started referring to it as popcorn lung. Starting to see the same type of thing with the vaping, same type of irritation.
So the governor wants to make marijuana legal, right? And so this is gonna create an even bigger problem.
Yeah, and we look at what's going on out in, say, Colorado, right? There's been a big increase in children being admitted to the emergency rooms because they're getting a hold of the.
Since it's legal there.
Yeah, but still, it's
Using
still
drugs.
underage.
Wouldn't that be an issue where what you're talking about is that, is the state of New Jersey now gonna be the dealer? You know, because we're gonna be maintaining that the drugs are safe. I mean, it's like a crazy vicious cycle. I don't think that's, you know.
But everything we're doing is not doing it. We're losing more and more kids.
It-
We're losing an incredible number.
And part of that is, well, what obviously in law enforcement, we're DEA, we're dead set against it, right? That's just the way it is. It does start with education, because no matter what drug it is, it's just straight like Coca-Cola or Kellogg's, or you name the company. It comes down to supply and demand. Right? If there's a demand, there will always be a supply, some way or another. Okay? Look at the room. How many of you are here? Right? And usually, in my experience in doing these, those of you that show up usually aren't the ones that need to be here, because you've already been kind of looking into things. Right? There are still, I can't tell you how many parents, if their children are not directly affected by this, there is no problem. It's out there somewhere, but it's not here. Right? I was telling somebody earlier, oh, he's gone. I had one of these set up down in South Jersey in May. I had to call them the other day to cancel because I have to be out of town that week. It was a school administrator I was speaking to. That's okay, no problem. We really don't have a big drug problem down here. It's like, are you serious? You know, why? Because somebody's not shooting up right in front of you? You know, it's here. It's everywhere. You know, it may not be to, you know, again, I don't want to give the impression that everybody is shooting up behind the high school, you know, or popping pills behind the high school. But it's there. You know, my son's a senior. He goes to school tomorrow morning and starts asking around, hey, who do I need to speak to get some pills? I guarantee you by lunchtime, he'll have a couple names on who to speak to. You know, it's here, it's everywhere, you know? So that attitude has to change, you know? And it's gonna take a long time, you know? It's not gonna end like that. Has to start with the younger generation not starting. that's gonna, but it's trying to get that done, that's,
Actually, I think it has to start with us.
oh, definitely.
That's the problem, because, you know, how many people have, you know, maybe have smoked a joint, you know, when they were younger and think, ah, it's not a big deal. So if my kid smokes marijuana, what's the big deal? And look at, we've seen what a, you know, how many more things that they're adding into that.
Right, and that's, you know, I mentioned fentanyl, and it's obviously directly tied in with heroin. But we're seeing now with our submissions to our labs, with seizures of cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, and fentanyl is starting to show up on everything. On everything.
The very attractively packaged potpourri ingredients before, where are they sold?
They were sold before there was the big push to illegalize it. Right, bath salts. That is synthetic marijuana, right? K2 or spice are the two most common names associated with it. Bath salts is a synthetic form of cocaine or methamphetamine. Okay? When they first started coming out, it was mainly convenience stores and gas stations where it was being sold. And then once they started making it illegal, then it kind of came off the shelves because shop owners were getting arrested for selling it. It's not obviously as prevalent in convenience stores and gas stations anymore, but people can still get it. You can purchase it on the internet.
I had a family that was buying it, his dad was buying it, he was paying his dealer for PayPal.
Yeah, yep,
For bath salts.
yeah. There are some places that still sell it, but they don't have it on display. You know, they have their regular customers who they will only sell it to, so they'll keep it in the back.
But it is illegal. So
It is, yeah, yeah. Because they passed laws that, as I mentioned with the breakdown of the molecular structure of it, that now they've passed laws that if a substance, if its sole purpose is to mimic the effects of the actual illegal drug, then they can still get charged. So,
I came late, so I apologize if you touched upon this. What's in vaping?
yeah, it's a, yeah,
Okay.
huge.
I'll get filled in. I'll let somebody else. You don't have to revisit it.
All right, then come up after, when I'm done.
Okay.
All right? Okay. All right,
I
so
work in the
we're,
middle school, so it's prevalent, it's happening,
Yeah.
and I'm just wanting to know more about it, so.
There's vaping in the middle school?
Yeah. In the middle school I work in, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to add about vaping that a lot of people don't know, is that in one pod,
Yes.
one pod is the equivalent of 20 cigarettes.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, for those that didn't hear that, the pods in the e-cigarettes, one pod is equivalent to,
20 cigarettes.
right.
So it's not safer.
No, because who's taking one puff and that's it, right?
Do they also, I saw something on the internet, and I'm not sure if it's true, with the little packets of now Tide or the dishwashing stuff, are people ingesting those too?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the purpose of that was. You know, I don't know if that was, you know, kids trying to outdo each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just have one last question.
Yep.
So what would you guys recommend? I mean, so listen, I was in California a few months ago. My friends dragged me to the dispensary. I didn't buy anything. I don't get down like that. But it was the most obnoxious thing to me because literally every single, they're called bud tenders, people that work there. Every single bud tender was literally selling their products like they were the cure for everything. Oh, do you have stomach problems? Do you have muscle aches from working out? Do you use this oil? So what do you guys recommend that we, you know, as providers, where I work for a mental health agency, so what do you recommend that we say to kind of counteract that? I mean, you know, where do we go from there when we have parents that are totally buying into, well,
Right.
if I rub this oil on my child's stomach, they're not gonna have IBS anymore.
Right. It's tough because obviously I'm an agent. Company line is no, medically or otherwise. If somebody is taking it medically and they say it helps them, I am not going to sit there and say, you're lying, you're just doing it to get stoned. If some people say it helps them, you know, I don't know, it's tough because obviously a lot of these people that have the cards, come on, you know?
I can get a card, anybody
Yeah,
can get a card.
yeah.
Are you without that?
No, no.
Oh.
You don't mean to say that there is no medicinal use for marijuana, do you?
No, that's what I'm saying. If somebody says it helps them, I'm not gonna sit there because I work for DEA and say, oh, no, you're wrong.
I mean, it's obviously safer than oxycodone. I mean, if it eases pain,
Right, in speaking to people and listening to people, they say it helps them. So, again,
I don't-
I'm not
saying,
gonna say it doesn't.
Just
You know.
today on NJ.com, there's like a list of like providers that are, already, it's like they're almost promoting it. It was like an extensive list of providers throughout every county in New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be,
It seems weird, it just
it's
seems
gonna be a
like-
big moneymaker.
Yeah.
I don't know
For
if you
sure.
dealt with it already, but in the book Chasing the Screen, they trace the history. All this stuff was legal at one time.
Right.
It was racialized marijuana, Mexicans, and then black musicians, heroin, black people. I mean, it was all racialized. Read Chasing the Screen, because you need to know the history. All this stuff was legal. All of it. Morphine, all of it was legal. You
Yeah.
get it in the drugstore.
Yep. Again, hidden in plain sight, right? Things that belong, some that don't, but most things that you wouldn't look twice at in a bedroom. Okay, but I'm going to show you how things can be looked at a little bit differently. Okay. Again, I tell parents as I do this, you have kids, go into their rooms and look around. Right? I've had a couple parents say, well, their bedroom is the one place in the house where they go for privacy. I don't want to invade that. Fine. I'm not telling anybody what to do. You know, like I said, in my house, I have 2 teenagers. Those aren't their bedrooms. Those are my bedrooms. Right? And I will go in whenever I want, when they're there or when they're not. You know, obviously everybody does whatever they want. But, you know, that's my outlook on it. Okay, so something like, you know, some of these speakers, this is small ones, you have the bigger ones. The ones that have the fronts that pop off, you know, you have some synthetic marijuana packaging here. Now that's a big area in there, okay? Now this is black, the background is black, so when it's up there, you can't see that anything is in there. Now if somebody is using some substances, and if they suspect that mom or dad might think that I'm using something, and they're gonna come looking for it, well, I'm gonna put it in a place where they're not gonna look, right? They're not gonna leave it under the bed. You know, that's why some of these other things will stand out a little more. Now you have a bong, a small bong, okay? Well, who would leave that out? Well, again, if they know mom and dad aren't gonna come in, it may be on the shelf or up in the closet, okay? Or, oh, I'm holding it for somebody. Right, whatever. Yep. Some things that don't mean anything, really. You know, a pair of sunglasses, you know, or a cigarette lighter. You know, if all of a sudden you notice they're wearing their sunglasses inside a lot, you know, maybe to hide redness in their eyes from smoking something. They start finding cigarette lighters, but they don't smoke cigarettes. Well, why do you have a lighter? Well, Mom, I have scented candles. I like the way it makes the room smell. Okay, legitimate. You get a few things, you start putting them together, it starts forming a picture, right? Doesn't necessarily mean anything. You see things you don't know, pick them up and look at them. You know, this 2 pieces has all little spikes on the inside. Okay, for grinding bigger pieces of marijuana down into small little pieces. Just put it in, close it, and just twist it back and forth.
What is that thing?
A grinder.
Oh, that's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought it was like
those
some
little
other.
spikes.
Oh.
Right? So now you have the sunglasses, you have the cigarette lighter, you have a grinder. Okay, nice little picture starting to form. Ball caps, definitely not out of place in a especially a boy's bedroom, right? But all baseball hats have this little sweatband on the inside. You just fold it down. Got a little baggie of marijuana, a little fold of heroin, okay, which fits perfect, right? Right on the inside. Then they throw it on their head, they walk out the house, and they have either their personal use or they can line the whole inside if they're selling it. You know, nobody knows any different. Just looks like a glass ornament, a little dinosaur. Okay, but you turn it upside down, it's got the little bowl there to put marijuana in, and then you inhale through the pipe, through the tail. Okay, nice little pipe. An oldie but a goodie, books. Just get a razor blade, cut out the center of some pages in the middle of the book. Creates a nice little hole in there. You know, perfect for hiding something. Here we have rolling papers, some heroin. Okay, again, sitting right up there on the shelf. Highlighter. You know, this looks like a regular highlighter. But this particular one, you can just pull the bottom out and you have a little pipe. You know, that's how it's sold. Okay, again, in a bedroom, if they have a desk, a cup, or their drawer with all their pens and pencils, this just blends right in. pacifier and glow sticks. Anybody?
Ecstasy. Ecstasy.
Right, ecstasy. You know, especially today with all these, the rave concerts. You know, glow sticks are pretty prevalent there. Somebody who's high on ecstasy or Molly, it tends to enhance their senses. So what this looks like to you and me at night when we're spinning them around, somebody who's high on ecstasy, it's like, wow, you know? But then they also tend to bite down, the jaw muscles tighten up. That's where the pacifier comes in. That they'll pop the pacifier in their mouth so that they're not biting down and grinding their teeth all night. So if somebody comes home from one of these concerts, and they're very popular with teenagers, and they have glow sticks, I wouldn't have a cow, because probably everybody at the concert had them. If they come home with the pacifier, you know, they'd have to have a really good explanation for why they have the pacifier. Tennis balls, just a razor blade, put a little slit in the tennis ball, and you can put a whole bunch of items inside there. A couple other types of pipes. You know, Hello Kitty. The website I bought this from, and the other items I purchased, all different types of cartoon or Disney characters that you can purchase. You know, so again, if it's sitting up on a shelf and looking at it from a distance, it just looks like a little goofy glass ornament. Okay, until you take a closer look. Any type of large container, perfect for hiding something. You have a decent sized bag of marijuana. You know, in this particular case, muscle milk or any type of protein powder. You know, just take it and push it down underneath the powder so that even if you open it up and look, you don't see it. You know, if you have a son or daughter who works out, you know, having this in the house wouldn't, obviously, you wouldn't think twice about it. But again, great hiding spot. Mouthwash, in this case the Listerine, 21.6% alcohol. Okay. Now a teenager who's looking to go out and party with his friends or her friends isn't going to be drinking a bottle, they're not going to be taking a bottle of Listerine out. This is usually somebody who's already got a major drinking problem and they just can't get a hold of alcohol, and they will drink this. I said when I was with the state police, when I was going through the training academy and we were doing the breathalyzer training, this is what we used, mouthwash. You know, we'd swish it around for 10 seconds, spit it out, and then blow into the breathalyzer machine, and the needle shoots straight across. So again, no big deal. It's just mouthwash. But if somebody is using this, then again, they probably already have a major drinking problem, and you would probably already be aware of that. But it's if you start noticing them going through a lot of bottles of mouthwash that you know something's going on. Okay, here we have a tube of sunscreen. Okay, it's empty. Purchase it, it comes empty. It's sold as a flask for alcohol. It comes with a nifty little funnel, you know, to pop it in, fill it with your favorite drink. So if you're going to a concert or you're going to the beach, even if your bag gets searched, it's just a tube of sunscreen, right? Very resourceful. This particular one comes in a 2-pack. Okay, I get a kick out of it. There's the other one. But the thing that gets me is on the back there's a little warning label. To avoid danger of suffocation, keep this plastic bag away from babies and children. Right? That's the main concern. Altoids, breath mints, we all know what Altoids look like. Perfect hiding place for pills. You know, just throw some pills in there, they blend right in. You know, again, just slip them in your pocket and nobody knows any different. The dust off, spray compressed air that you use to clean the dust off of your keyboard. Excuse me, teenagers will inhale this, and the propellant takes the place of the oxygen in their system, making them lightheaded and feeling high. Again, having this is definitely not out of place in a home. But if you notice, they're going through a lot of these little bottles, and definitely worth looking into. Another little pipe, little scorpion. Okay, but on the top it has the little bowl for the marijuana, and you inhale through the little stem in the back. And then along pipe cleaners, the original purpose, not arts and crafts, right? The website I purchased these from, they sell these in bags of hundreds. Okay, so if you come across these in the garbage can, especially if they have, brownish residue on it, take a whiff and you'll get that marijuana odor. Because again, the more they use it, the more residue is going to build up. They have to be clean. Any type of clothing with any drug references, it might not be anything. It might just be their friend had something similar. They like the way it looks. They're being rebellious. But again, it's a great way to get a conversation started. Just hey, what's going on with the shirt? Again, like the muscle milk, anything that's large. Backpacks are perfect because it has all the pockets, all the zippers, bottle of pills or whatever else. And again, odds are, if you find it, the response is going to be, it's not mine, I'm holding it for somebody. Okay? Well, if that really is the case, then you're a dope. Because if something happens, you're the one that's going to take the fall for it. With a bed, between the mattress and box spring, underneath the fitted sheet, inside the pillowcase, under the bed, plenty of places to hide something, right? Stuffed animals, just undo a couple stitches in the back, and you can hide all types of stuff inside a stuffed animal. Sneakers or shoes, if you're gonna go searching, don't forget to look at the shoes. You just pull up the sole. You can put whatever, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, underneath the sole of the shoe. And just so you know, it's just oregano.
That's what they all say.
That's right. Don't forget the garbage can. Okay, a crushed soda can belongs in a garbage can. Hey, at least it's in the can and not on the floor, right? But, closer look, the little flat area, there's a whole bunch of little holes poked in. Put your marijuana on top of the holes, use the lighter, and then just inhale through the opening. Okay, now if you don't have one of these fancy glass pipes, now you have a pipe. Cardboard toilet paper rolls stuffed with scented dryer sheets, so that if somebody is smoking in the room, blowing smoke through to try and get rid of the smell. Paper bags with spray paint residue. Okay, huffing, where they'll spray paint in the bag and then just cover their mouth and nose completely and inhale all the fumes. Similar with the Ready Whip, holding it upright and breathing the propellant in. Over-the-counter cough medicine. If you start finding a lot of empty bottles of over-the-counter cough medicine, refer to it as robo-tripping, where they'll drink entire bottles.
Or they call it scissor, that's what they call it.
Usually that's with the prescription, yeah.
Entertainer's guide.
Yeah. But if you start noticing a lot of empty bottles, definitely look into it. Any type of picture or poster frame, you can just pop the back off. And again, the little baggies of heroin or marijuana fit perfectly between the backing and the photo. My last pipe, and again, there's a million different ones that you can purchase. You got the little ball on the bottom, and then you inhale through the nose. For girls, a little cigarette or little lipstick. Okay, if it's in a makeup bag, just fits right in. But like the highlighter, it's also a pipe. And again, all these different items that are purchased, well, my son or daughter, they don't have a credit card, so they can't go online to purchase it. They're not using my credit card because I'm vigilant with checking my statement every month, so I know they're not taking my card. Okay, but kids get Visa, MasterCard gift cards. All right, so now they can. And they're home usually before us, so they get the mail before you're even home. So they don't have to worry about mom or dad finding what it is that they ordered, because they get it first. Mentioned the Pop Rocks. You know, again, just Pop Rocks, but again, very similar to the synthetics. And here's different packaging for the different synthetics that we seize. You know, it just looks like candy, just candy wrappers. You're not paying attention. Some hairbrushes. You know, this particular type, the head slides off. You open it up, and you got some heroin inside. Thinking, where are you going to look? Well, those are the places I'm actually not going to use. Tootsie Rolls or chapstick. Okay, just warm them up, get them nice and warm so they get soft, and then you could push pills inside them to hide your pills, and then just wrap it back up again. You know, so anybody looking at it's just a Tootsie Roll. Like the synthetic packaging, just a regular can of Rockstar energy drink. But again, the colors, you know, very similar to the Pop Rocks with the colors and all that. And then a can of Four Loko, okay, which is a beverage that contains alcohol, 12% alcohol by volume. Okay, 2 to 3 times the amount of alcohol in a can of beer. But again, you know, look at the comparison, the colors, you know, the bold letters. You know, it's not something that a lot of people would associate with a drink containing alcohol. And then you start finding spoons hidden away. Okay, obviously associated with heroin use, injecting heroin. You know, pay attention to that. Okay, so almost done. Again, with cell phones, stay on top of the cell phones, what they're doing with them, who they're talking to, what apps they have, get familiar with those apps. If you live in a home that has central air conditioning, okay, those grates, it's usually 1 or 2 screws holding them in. Takes 2 seconds to pop them off, and you have that big area inside to hide stuff. You can get belt buckles that have little compartments, curtains and curtain rods. The 2-piece curtain rods where 1 piece fits inside the other, the hollow on the inside, hide things inside the rod. In the top hem and bottom hem of the curtain, just pop things inside there. Putting something in a Ziploc bag and putting a piece of tape on it and folding the tape around the back side of the toilet tank so that whatever they have doesn't get wet and it just hangs there. Toilet paper roll holder. Again, the 2-piece one, okay, dealing with one of the parents whose daughter was in recovery. Mother said one day she was using the toilet, pulled down on the toilet paper, the bar fell out. When it hit the floor, it opened up, and that's where her daughter was hiding her syringes. Anywhere in a car, a million hiding spots in a car. And then other indicators, laxatives. Okay, if you all of a sudden notice somebody in the house is going through a lot of laxatives. Okay, heroin and prescription painkillers can lead to constipation. Okay, that could be a good indicator. Again, the shirts with drug references, 710. You know, the list of different concentrates that I had up there before. Okay, that's just a reference to the marijuana oil. It's just the word oil turned upside down. 420 is a number very much associated with marijuana. April 20th is a huge day for people that are pro-marijuana. Here we have the scissor, you know, Gottlieb, purple drank. It's the codeine, prescription codeine cough medicine. mixed with usually 7-Up or Sprite, sometimes a grape Jolly Rancher thrown in. Okay, it's referenced in a lot of different songs. And then to finish up, you know, our job is to be a parent for our kids, right? Not to be their friends, right? You don't tell them, okay, invite your friends over, everybody can go down in the basement, you can drink down there, okay? Because they're not hearing, you can just drink here in my house. They're hearing, you can drink. And then, God forbid something happens, you as the parent, you're on the hook. You're the one that's gonna get charged. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, if you see something or you suspect something's going on, find out, okay? Odds are they're not gonna be upfront and honest with you the first time you ask, but stay on top of it. Again, how many times have we heard if you get that gut feeling, usually means something's going on. You know, go with it. Again, take a look around their rooms, know who their friends are, pay attention to the small things. You know, again, I mentioned earlier, we know our kids the best. If little changes start going on, there might be a very logical explanation for it, but try and find out what that is. Seek help if needed. You know, there is a lot of stigma, a lot of negative stigma attached. You know, somebody in your neighborhood comes down with cancer and they're going for treatments. At least in my neighborhood, it's happened several times where the neighbors rally around while the mother's getting treatment. Well, I'll cook dinner for the kids on Monday night, you do it Tuesday night. But if somebody finds out your 17-year-old has a drug addiction, it's almost the opposite. Everybody takes that step back. They're not gonna let their little 10-year-old come over and play with your 10-year-old anymore, right? Because what kind of house are you running that you allowed that to happen to your 17-year-old? And if it is a drug problem, it will not go away on its own. You know, you can yell and scream and yell, okay, I'm gonna stop. Right. They wake up the next morning, the first thing they're trying to do is get high again, so that a lot of times, just so they don't start going through withdrawal symptoms. You know, it's not gonna go away on its own. You have to try and get help somehow. And then finally, never say not my child, right? Because it can happen to any one of us. You know, I've had plenty of people say, well, you're a DEA agent, you have nothing to worry about. I have just as much to worry about as anybody else. My kids are just like every other kids that are out there. You know, we can do everything the right way, right? You raise them the right way. You talk to them about the dangers. You get them involved in all the after-school activities, and yet something can still happen. Maybe they did make the choice. Maybe they were out at a party, and their friends offered them something. They said, you know what the hell, I'll try it once. But then they really liked it, and they kept going back. Or, like I said, they get an injury or they get into an accident and a doctor prescribes it. And that leads to the addiction. It can happen. So we can't have the attitude that it's only out there. Yeah, it happened to them, but that's their house. It could happen in our house at any time. Okay? If you take anything away from tonight, take that away. And then just some resources that DEA has, some websites. Get Smart About Drugs is a website geared towards parents and teachers. Gives you information on all the different drugs that are out there, the effects they have, how to get conversations started. JustThinkTwice.com is the same type of website but geared towards teenagers. DEA.gov has a lot of different resources on it. Campus Drug Prevention is relatively new that we came out with last year, dealing obviously on the college level. Operation Prevention is a educational tool that we have. The New Jersey Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services, they can provide listings by county of different places that you can get assistance if needed. You know? That's my direct contact information. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
And I also have his information, you can reach out to me if you need it.
That's not a main number that goes direct to my desk, and obviously my direct email. Anybody have any questions about anything? It's a tough topic, you know? And again, I don't want to give the impression and make you think, my God, you know, everybody. No, it's not everybody. But just be aware, you know, pay attention. You know, if they're doing something you don't want them to do, tell them no. That's our job, right? They're supposed to get mad at us. Right. That's what being a parent is. Okay? So I thank you for your attention. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you.
I wanted to reiterate, it was perfect that at the end, that one of the talking points on the screen was ending the stigma around addiction, because that's the whole goal of Stigma-Free Springfield, ending the stigma around mental health crises and illnesses, as well as addiction. And over on this side of the room, there are representatives from multiple services right here in Union County that can give you some really valuable information. I don't know if any of you want to just introduce yourselves. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you just want to. Sure.
My name is Pam Taylor, and I work at the Mental Health Association in New Jersey. We're in Springfield on Morris Avenue. And we have multiple resources there and for mental health as well as substance abuse. My particular area is the substance abuse. I'm the coordinator for their warm line, which is called NJ Connect. And on that line, people call us, and we refer the substance abuser to treatment, or we have counselors that will talk to them. Our line is both clinical, we have CADCs, and peer-driven. We have peers who have had lived experience or are now recovery coaches. So we'll talk. But I think that the thing with us that we're really, really passionate about are family members, because we talk to so many mothers and fathers and people that have friends and loved ones that are dealing with addiction, that are suffering. We call it a family disease because, and people that have, people that are around them that are using, they know from firsthand experience that it is a family disease. For us, they call, sometimes they don't really have a clue. They don't really know what's going on, why, when, where, all of those questions that they may ask us, and what should I do? So we have a conversation with them. We don't push them off. We'll spend 40 minutes on the phone with someone just talking to them about substance and what they can do. That's what we do on that line.
Thank you so much for coming.
Because we have two mental health locations that are in Union County. We have one in Union Township. We provide mental health treatment for children ages 3 to 21. We accept Medicaid only, so that's always a really hard population to serve because it's very difficult for them to find really good therapists. We have them, I like to think. Our Union office has clinicians that speak English, Portuguese, and Spanish. We have a Spanish-speaking psychiatrist who provides psychiatric evaluations, ongoing medication monitoring. She works out of all three of our outpatient offices, actually. So we have an outpatient office in Union. We have a satellite outpatient office in Mountainside, which is right on 22. That office is also predominantly our supervised therapeutic visitation program. We also have an office in Middlesex Borough, which is kind of right near Plainfield, that area. We also do outpatient and visitation, supervised therapeutic visitation there. We also have our intensive in community program, which is in-home services, in-home therapy for children that are involved with CMO, mobile response. So that we're in 16 counties throughout the state. So majority is pretty much Camden, Burlington, everything north. And then the last thing that we have is a Nurtured Heart Approach program, where we have a training program where we have 2 advanced trainers who will go out to schools, to pediatric offices, to hospitals, to family groups, and actually train them on the Nurtured Heart Approach and how they can use it in dealing with children and working with children.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
In the county government, I'm the director of the behavioral health unit in the county and the mental health administrator. Every county has a mental health administrator, and I'm the one in Union County. We have a lot of different things here that you could take with you. One of them is a guide to all the mental health services and the substance use disorder treatment services in our county. So please take our materials. I also want to introduce Maria Sista, who is the Springfield Municipal Alliance Coordinator. And the Municipal Alliances, they're in 19 towns in Union County, and Springfield has one. And they are funded through the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and they fund prevention programming and activities, and that county grant for that program is run through my unit. So I'm happy.
And Maria dropped off some stuff as well, information. So we have magnets and some other things. And Sarah, also the county is in the process of launching the Stigma-Free Initiative sometime in the near future. So it's exciting that it's going to be happening countywide down the line. So I just wanted to mention that as well. And thank you, Sarah, for coming.